Welcome, my patron saint friends. Do you know how scary it was for me to make a show that says why Roger will win at the French Open over Rafa? I feel like a crazy person. But as you saw, if you watched listen to the first podcast, you saw that a lot of people, according to Tennis Channel, think that Roger will win. What does that mean? Does that just mean there's a bunch of crazy delusional Fed fans out there who just are so excited they think he's going to win and then they're going to be crushed tomorrow when he doesn't? Or does that actually mean a bunch of people think he's ready to beat Rafa? I think it's that. That's what I think it is. I really do. I think a lot of people who know enough about tennis have seen the psychological stuff flip. And Rafa, it's just, he's not going to have, he doesn't own Roger like he did for so long. In some ways, he's probably going to feel worried about Roger. In some of his press stuff, it almost seemed like that. The way he talked about how serious of a challenge this is, of course he's going to. He's not going to say, oh yeah, I'm not worried about Roger, whatever. He's definitely not going to say that. Oh my God, if you can hear that, that's Mr. Goat. He wants me to go up there and feed him. Let me feed Mr. Goat. Be right back. And we're back. You know what? Let's just go into some clips because, hey, guess what? This is an unlisted video, so I probably don't have to worry about getting in trouble. So let's cut to, I made this yesterday, so let me just read what I have here. At times, Nadal would have a heavy ball in his backhand corner, would decide to run around it, so picture this, you'll see it in a moment. He's in his backhand corner, he decides to run around and go inside in with the forehand to attack the Roger backhand. It's the equivalent of hitting a backhand up the line to Roger, except it's inside and forehand, so it gets him further away. This leaves Rafa's forehand corner open, and Roger would hurt Rafa by stepping in and taking a cross-court backhand early. With the new racket, where he hits his backhand harder, this is a winner. Or at the very least, this is a great chance to go to the net. Okay, this next clip, 16 minutes, 35 seconds into the highlights of, this is 2011, Roger and Rafa, the last time they played at the French Open, the finals, then, now the semifinals. The backhand up the line, super effective throughout the match from Roger. And it looks just like the stuff we saw Fabio doing at Monte Carlo. Take a look. Okay, so another thing is return. We saw this a lot. Stan hit 29 serves in the deuce court up the tee to the Roger backhand. Only 12 at the body, only 13 wide to the Roger forehand. He hit 31 out wide to the ad court. Let's put this on the screen for the patron saints. We can do that. We can do a little edit for the patron saints. Take a look at this, because this is what's going to happen with Rafa. 0 second serves to the forehand on the ad court, only 3 on the deuce court. Everything is either at the body or to the backhand. And again, with second serves, you worry when you go create an angle that they have time to set up and rip an angle back. Sometimes it's better to just second serve, kick it right at the body. You might be more in control of the point from the serve than you would be if you gave them a chance to hurt you with some kind of an angle. So that's why you see that. But 31 out wide to the backhand on the ad, 29 on the deuce. Stan gave Roger what Rafa's going to do. A ton of traffic away from the backhand. Lots of it. So that's a good thing. And one thing, well, it's a good thing that Stan did it so Roger's kind of prepared. He's already seen what he's going to see with Rafa. Now, Roger, a lot of times, would just kind of hit this backhand up the middle, in the deuce court I'm talking about, and slightly away from the from the middle to the left towards Stan's backhand, or towards his forehand. And sometimes it was having a jamming effect. And I thought overall it was working pretty well. And then eventually Roger, getting so used to taking so many of those serves, he would pull it over to his right. So take a look at this clip of him doing this to Rafa. He had been hitting enough, and remember, this goes to the Rafa backhand. This is even more effective. So you return a ball coming up the middle from Rafa on the deuce court, sliding away from you, but you stand in close enough to catch it early before it slides away from you too much and kind of jam Rafa up, put him in that corner. Now, he is very good at defending that, don't get me wrong, but if Roger just lets it rip, and he should, if he holds serve easily enough, and he really should, I think Roger's going to be able to serve well enough to where he's not going to feel like he's under too much pressure on his own serve. Let's hope. I think with Rafa not being able to just hammer cross-court forehands to the backhand deep and you rely on the height because of the weather conditions, it won't be as high. I think that's going to hurt Rafa's chances to really trouble Roger on his serve like he normally would here at the French Open. So because of that, I think he's going to be a little harder pressed if Roger steps in and takes it early and kind of jams him up to step around and hit it inside out or inside in forehand. And if Roger does it enough, this is what happened 8 years ago. Take a look. He can pull it over towards the Rafa forehand, but again, he's taking the pace of a Rafa serve, and he's taking it so early with his backhand and pulling it over there, it can be a clean winner. And that's with the smaller racket. All right, what else? Got one more clip for you, and then we'll just talk a little more, and then we'll get out of here, and you can get some sleep, or the match will be started because you're listening to this in the morning right before the match. Roger can do well with lots of serves up the tee in the deuce court, which, how many did he give the Stan? 20. More than he went out wide, which is surprising. You would have thought he would have done more sliders to try to pull him off there and create some stuff with angles, and you would think he will do that to Rafa. But he can do very well this serve up the tee. Take a look at this clip where he's serving up the tee in the deuce court, because when I talked about this earlier in the first podcast, when Rafa has to stretch, he's not used to being very stretchy and defensive on his forehand. He's used to hitting forehands on his terms. He's looking for forehands. The opponent's trying to avoid his forehand. That's what Rafa's used to doing in all of his matches. When you go right at the forehand and you go very aggressive, and then Rafa has to play his forehand from a very defensive, it's kind of like what they used to do to Roger. That was what Djokovic and Rafa did so effectively to Roger. They were able to pull him to the backhand and then go really hard and make Federer hit a bunch of forehands on the dead run and not let him set his feet, not get any rhythm on the forehand, so Roger couldn't dictate play with the forehand like he always did his whole career. Oh, here comes Mr. Goat. You think he's going to join us. So if Rafa has to stretch, there's opportunities right away. Take a look at the clip. Look at the drop shot. This 5-5 game in this match, Roger Rafa 2011. Roger goes tee a lot until he goes the other way and catches you off guard completely. And if you remember Monte Carlo, Fabio Fognini, he pretty much breaks the forehand of Rafa. Now, it's the first tournament back. Rafa's not playing as well yet. First one back since Mexico where he loses the Kyrgios. But Fabio, he uses the backhand up the line to get Rafa in this kind of uncomfortable, he's kind of stranded in that corner, and he gets him over there, and then he can go right at the forehand, and eventually it just seemed like Rafa's forehand was completely unreliable. Roger has to attack all the time, never allow Rafa to get on the baseline, never let him dictate play, and just like I said earlier, if he gets pushed back a little, just rip, bail out. If you make the shot, great, you're still on the point. If you don't, start over. You don't want to wear yourself out doing stuff that's only going to make Rafa gather strength. One thing on the return, and Roger's talked about this in press, is that slice serve has more action than Stan's kick. I did say Stan targeted the backhand with most of his serves. That's true. And Rafa will do it, but it'll be more of a slice, and it can move away. That's why I think it's really important that Roger return the ball very early, get inside the baseline, cut that slice off. And I'm sure we'll see this. You'll see tomorrow when Roger plays. If he stands in super close, he can limit the spin exposure. Let me say one more thing about Roger's serve, and we will get out of here. We'll let you sleep. It's so important, whatever Roger does, whichever one side he decides to target more, I don't think it's that bad if he takes his first serve and goes right at the Rafa forehand. Like I said, if he can break the Rafa forehand like Fabio, make Rafa feel completely uncomfortable, I think that can be very advantageous and a key to why I think Roger will win. He knows. He has to know at this point. And he's done it enough in these matches I've been watching from 2017, Indian Wells. It's so important that he goes hard all the time after Rafa and take the ball super early and keep Rafa back and uncomfortable, never letting him dictate play. And the most important thing on the Roger serve is that he just goes for his spots. His serve game is good enough to where he's not going to have to worry too much about Rafa. If he can serve, he has to have a great serving day. Don't get me wrong. Just because Roger should and could and can win tomorrow, the conditions help him a lot. It's a big opportunity for Roger. And Roger, like Rafa said, he wouldn't have come to the French Open if he didn't think he could beat Rafa. Roger said it too. He said, I wouldn't play on clay if I wasn't trying to run into Rafa. If you play on clay and you want to win, and if you're Roger Federer, you play tournaments to win, period, you're going to run into Rafa. That's part of playing on clay and trying to win big tournaments on clay. So Roger's serve game, he has to go in there and have the belief that he's going to be able to hold serve against Rafa, no problem. It's just like playing anyone else. If he hits his spots, he's the best in the world when he hits his spots. And he has to establish his patterns no matter what he goes with. Pick one and hammer it and then go the other way. And I think that's what we're going to see. The question is, for me, a big question, is Roger going to go more of the sliders on the deuce court, or is he going to go hard up the tee more? I'm not sure. You would think he's going to target the Rafa backhand and hit the sliders in the deuce court, but I wouldn't be shocked if he wants to try to break down the Rafa forehand. I know that sounds crazy, but if he takes his best weapon and he goes right up the tee with it, you're going to see Rafa fall back instantly. Rafa's going to feel uncomfortable having to lunge out and hit his forehand in a defensive way. Again, you got to hit the tee. You can't screw up the serve. It's got to be a good one. It's got to be close enough to the tee to really get this effect. Rafa's going to back up right away, pull the ripcord out from under him, hit the drop shot. Come to the net and drop it short. Chip it short and come to the net, or drop shot and come to the net. Or from right there, rip it backhand up the line. Rafa's surely going to try to find the Federer backhand in this situation. Roger, step around it, because Rafa's going to be a little caught off guard if you hit this spot enough. And then, of course, you can start hammering the backhand after that for a little bit. You'll have time to step around your backhand and get an inside-out forehand. There's so many ways that Roger's going to be able to hurt Rafa. The number one key, believe in your serve, go for your spots, and always keep Rafa back. If he's back, he's vulnerable to the drop shot. If he's back, you can pull him wide enough to hit the other side and go to the net. There's so many ways Roger can hurt Rafa. And if he wins the first set, this is a big key. If Roger can win the first set and put some serious pressure on Rafa, like we've seen this year. I know Rafa wasn't his best on clay for most of the season, but when he came up against good players, as soon as they made him uncomfortable, you started seeing more uncharacteristic. Think Fabio Fognini. You started seeing a lot of errors after Fabio did enough to trouble Rafa. And I know Rafa's playing better now than then, but Roger's playing a lot better than he was his first matches at Madrid and Rome too. If you do enough to trouble him, the errors will come, the discomfort will come. I really think we're going to see this. Thank you for listening, and of course, if you're listening, you're one of the Patreons. Thank you very much for supporting me, and I promise to keep working super hard and keep trying to make this show better and better. Enjoy the match. If Roger loses, it's not the end of the world, but I really think this is as good of a chance as he's ever going to have to beat Rafa on clay. And it feels so much like 2017 Australian Open to me that I really believe it's actually going to freaking happen. See ya.